GERO 508, it's us again. It's the last week of class, our final 2 lectures. And this summer goes by fast. Do not panic if you are behind. Do not panic if you need to make up some assignments. Just reach out to us and let us know, and we'll work with you. We want to make sure that everyone's successful and that everyone does well. And we understand this summer is a hard time to take. Actually, fall and spring are hard times too, but we understand the life of a student. So let us know if you have
and the life of the pandemic.
Yes, we understand that too.
Yeah, suddenly, the Omicron variant has reared its ugly head.
Yes.
Just want to remind you, okay, that the final exam, okay, is the 5th. So please get that done. You click right here, and it takes you right there to the exam, okay? And as indicated in here, it's open all day long, but once you get going, you have 3 hours to get it done. All right, just like the last time. Julie prepared a study guide?
Yes, I will send that out hopefully in the next day or so.
Very cool. All right, so that's really the only other thing. We've been watching your marketing pamphlets come in, and again, this was just an exercise for you to kind of apply your learning to something maybe very useful to you in your career. That was our hope, So, and it looks like you guys are doing a great job so far.
Yeah.
So.
If you have any questions, reach out to us. If you want us to take a look at a draft. Sometimes people get worried, am I on the right track? You can send it to me. That's no problem.
So these are the last 2 assignments that are happening this last week. We've downloaded the PowerPoint. We're going to go ahead and take a look at it. And the PowerPoint, Julie's going to do an overview of the power of meditation, which is really, really cool, and reflect back on much of our course. And then we just ask you guys to don't forget to do your quiz, okay, right here. And also to respond to the prompt. So I'm going to go ahead and access the PowerPoint.
Okay, great.
All righty,
Thank
so
you.
I got a few of them in here, but we're going straight into meditation.
So these are 2 of my favorite interventions. We're going to talk about meditation, and then in the next lecture, we'll talk about happiness and gratitude. Meditation can be very simple. It can be very complicated. You can take classes online.
That's okay. No, that's all right. We're just going to get out of here.
That's okay. Don't worry about that.
Okay.
So anyway,
that was just me hitting something.
I will try to find a link that some of my students shared last summer, with some really great meditation classes. If I haven't already sent that out yet, I'll send that out this week. But yes, when I go to the doctor and I have a stressful procedure that is scheduled, I have a kind of a mindfulness breathing thing on my Fitbit that I'll sit in the waiting room and I'll do the breathing exercises a few times. And I can feel my blood pressure go down and my heart rate go down. And then I'm ready to go in and have them jab a big needle in my hip or whatever it is that they want to do.
When I'm surfing and I see big waves coming, I sit there. I control my breathing. I sit because, misdirected stress response and adrenaline is not your friend.
Yeah. And one of my first experiences with a meditation-like tool was childbirth. Because when you are giving birth and you don't have pain meds, and you go into your Lamaze breathing, you're practicing breathing exercises, and you're focusing on a focal point, and it's really just a way of relaxing your body and letting nature take its course. So many years ago now, it was helpful to me, and I think will continue to be helpful. So let's go on to the next slide.
All right.
Okay, so there's a lot of benefits of meditation, just like the other interventions we talked about. And I also feel like there's overlap. When you do yoga, you're kind of meditating. When you exercise and you get into that zone, if you're a runner or you're a weightlifter or we walk for exercise, and you'll kind of get into that zone of it's hard to explain if you haven't experienced it, but with yoga, with Tai Chi, with meditation, there's all this overlap, I think, between the different modalities and the different interventions that we talked about.
And I talked about with surfing, and what you do unconsciously, but what you train yourself to do with meditation is how to immerse yourself and lose yourself into that exercise that you're doing.
Absolutely. People talk a lot about NFL quarterbacks, how when you get to that really high level of performance, the game slows down. And I think that's almost a form of meditation. They get out on the field, and to us watching, everything is happening so quickly. But when you're at that zone, in that zone, at that high level of performance, the game slows down and you can see everything really clearly. So it's kind of cool how that works.
So surfing and fishing or football, I mean, you can have, it's a form of meditation, but when you're sitting at your office up at USC, you can't go surfing and you can't play football. So what you can do though, is you can just change the environment for 10 minutes that you're at the workplace and calm yourself down.
And there are a lot of great apps that you can use on your phone. I have one that I used quite a bit when I was first diagnosed with cancer that had a visualization, a guided visualization for meditation, and it was really great. So it was something that just reduced my stress levels. So anyway, but to talk about the slide, benefits of meditation, very powerful in terms of dealing with pain. So we see a lot of doctors, a lot of hospitals using meditation apps, music, guided visualization to help people who are experiencing pain. It can be a very good way, good tool to be used in palliative care. It can enhance the body's immune system. We'll talk in a little bit, hey, next time you go to get a COVID vaccine or a flu vaccine, do a little meditation before or after, and hopefully you'll get a really robust, great immune response from your vaccine. It can reduce mental health problems like depression, anxiety. It's very effective at dealing with anger and hostility and aggression. It increases blood flow to the brain. We'll show you some brain maps and brain imaging studies that show that change in blood flow all throughout the brain. And it just helps people get to a calmer mood. So when you're in traffic, try a little, not so much meditation that you're not focusing on the road, but you can try repeating a mantra or something like that. It helps reverse heart disease. It helps if you are someone who has anxiety or PTSD and you may have trouble going to sleep at night, or you may wake up in the middle of the night and you're having trouble controlling your thoughts, you're racing thoughts, you're worried about the test, you're worried about something that happened with a friend. You can use a little bit of meditation, use a like a mantra, repeat and just relax your brain. And it can also help people increase their energy levels. So it can help deal with fatigue, which can be useful with older people, I think, as well.
And this was brought up in the reading that was posted that where they actually did scientific, it was a review article looking at really the science of meditation as it relates to stress hormones and heart disease and the HPA axis. And they talk about hostility and reflect back way back when earlier in this summer semester, we had that article about hostility. It was a little short one about hostility and how it was directly linked to stress and then major vascular problems.
Yeah, and I think all of us who live in urban environments where, John and I talk about this all the time, we live in highly populated, dense areas. We're dealing with a lot of traffic. We're dealing with competition when we go to the grocery store. We have trouble finding parking, just all of these little irritations that happen all day long. Being able to use a tool like meditation or gratitude can help reduce your stress and help you kind of accept the little annoyances that happen on a daily basis.
And laughter is a great way of fending off those irritations too. You just laugh it off and go, just how ridiculous things are sometimes.
Yes. Okay. Next one.
Okay. This one right here? Or are we
No,
going
next slide.
All right.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Okay. Yes.
It's coming.
Here it is. Okay. So this is just a screenshot of our readings. We have a little video. All the video is showing you how to do this Kirtan Kriya meditation style. There's a lot of different meditation styles. You're not married to this one, but this is one that is pretty easy to do. Only takes 12 minutes a day or less. You figure out how much time you want to spend on it. And then the video, the scientific power of meditation, that guy's talking really fast. You can go into the settings knob on YouTube and dial it back to 0.75 speed, and it'll probably be less stressful for you when you're watching that video.
And the reason we did the Kirtan Kriya meditation is that was the intervention. Again, when you're doing, remember when you guys set up your scientific study, you have an independent variable that you're changing, and then you're looking at the outcome, the dependent variables. And in this study, the author referred to this form of meditation.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Very cool.
And it's interesting because they use music and physical touch of your, sorry, I'll put my fingers here. Okay, using your fingers, which I'll show on another slide. So it's a combination of music, it's a combination of movement and focusing your brain.
Yeah.
So
and you,
really
and you have
cool.
to you have to memorize the chant, and so it does engage your brain so that you're not thinking about all the crap that is coming up next week. Awesome.
Okay, so this
is the article.
This is the article, and I wanted to highlight the terms because one of the places where people get lost in scientific articles is that there's all these different terms and acronyms that get defined once at the beginning of the article, and then we have no idea what they mean 2 pages later. So RR was a form of meditation they talked about. It's a relaxation response. You can use a lot of different techniques to trigger a relaxation response. Transcendental meditation is another form. Mindfulness-based stress reduction is another form. Kirtan Kriya, they abbreviate KK. SCD is subjective cognitive decline, and MCI is mild cognitive impairment. So those are just, abbreviations you might see, acronyms you might see in the article that could be confusing.
And they do that because there's a word limit.
Yeah.
So,
yes.
we all have to suffer through the acronyms.
Like I said, science is hard that way, and law is the same. We have a lot of terms of art and things that we use to confuse people. But anyway, bottom line in the article. Stress increases cortisol. We know that. We've learned that. Cortisol damages your brain. We know that. Cortisol increases risk factors for Alzheimer's disease, inflammation, high blood pressure, diabetes, depression, sleep deprivation. So we have stress, we've got cortisol, and we've got all these diseases that flow from that. So when we use meditation and they look at the actual physical response to meditation in a scientific study, they saw increased blood flow to the brain. We like having blood flow to the brain. Your little brain cells love that. People did better on cognitive testing, which is pretty amazing. People reported having improved memory, better mood, better energy. And this is something that really, really spoke to me, improved telomerase activity, which is a measure of cellular aging. So as you age, your telomeres get shorter.
Smaller and smaller.
And then as your cells divide, as a result, you get more mistakes and mutations, and you get things like cancer.
Right.
So if we can slow down that cellular aging process, we're going to be healthier.
You get slower renewal of tissue. So.
Absolutely. So we get improved sleep, better immune response, down-regulating inflammatory genes, improved glucose metabolism. That's remarkable for something that you can really do 5-10 minutes a day. And you don't have to do it every day, but you can get into the habit, and it has these really profound effects.
And the increased blood flow to the brain reflects that the brain is more active. It's more active, and just like when I do this and my muscle is more active, there's more blood flow to the muscle. When the brain cells are more active, the blood vessels open up and allow the flow of nutrients to that area that is most active. So that activity means, hey, things are growing and there's plasticity.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. So this is just a little graphic showing what the Kirtan Kriya meditation is. And so it's kind of like the first 4 notes of Mary Had a Little Lamb, and you're doing, sorry, I get my hand there. So sa, ta, na, ma. Sa, ta, na,
ma. See, it requires a lot of focus.
Sa, ta, na, ma. And then the picture that we have there of the little right angle arrow going through the top of the woman's brain, you're basically visualizing, you're just washing the stress and the worry and the thoughts. You're just visualizing almost like a broom coming into the top of your head and emptying out your
in
your
the article, they refer to a flow of sound.
Flow of sound.
So the sounds that you're making when you're doing the sa, ta, na, ma, you then, in your meditation, as you do it, you visualize the sound flowing this way.
Yeah, so if you're not a musician, what they've shown is that the pace that you're doing this at is basically 1 beat a second. And guess what? That's a pretty good heart rate, 60 beats a minute. So you're doing this music at a pace, and your heart rate is going to slow or speed up, I guess, if you have a really slow heart rate. It's going to want to match. Your body's going to want to match that 1 beat per second or 60 beats per minute.
Awesome.
Okay. Now, our dog is having a heart attack
Matt,
in
you
the
can
other
let the dog
room.
down here. We'll introduce her.
She's, we put her in another room,
stressed.
and she's filing a formal protest. That's all I'm saying.
Because it's all about Julie all the time.
We have a deep relationship. So anyway, the scientific power of meditation, like I said, slow the video down. The guy's going to talk really fast, and that may be fine for you, but for me, it kind of drove me a little nuts. So anyway, so they looked at brain scans and talked about brain scans and the flow of brain. And when you see red and yellow, that means increased blood flow in these functional MRIs. So they show a baseline and then they show a meditation scan. And so you can see there's more red, there's more yellow, there's less green, which green normally is good, but in this case, green means your brain's kind of sleepy. So you see a pretty profound change between baseline and meditation.
More
so that's
flow, more activity.
Increased blood flow, increased metabolic activity. They also showed that meditation increases pain tolerance. And so I showed a link to this scan. And what they did with this experiment, they applied a heated probe to the back of the calves of the subjects with, permission and consent, full informed consent. It wasn't so hot that it burned them. It was hot enough to be uncomfortable, like 120 degrees. And so the people that were just resting and had this hot probe applied to the back of their leg, when they scanned their brains, the brain was lighting up, hey, the back of my calf hurts right now. I'm feeling uncomfortable. Then they had people meditate, and they gave them very quick meditation lessons, I think maybe an hour total. And then they had them have the probe attached to the back of their leg. And the brain wasn't registering the discomfort that came along with that hot probe on the back of the leg. So pretty cool. I gave you a link to the article. I'm not saying you have to read the article, but if you're excited about it, you can go look at it.
It's a beautiful, beautiful picture. So that right there is actually the area of pain sensation in the brain right there. And you can see that it's lit up here in the resting state, and then after meditation, you see it's not lit up. This is the flowing pathway. That's what that little indicator is called, the thalamus. It takes it up to the cortex. Very cool. All right.
Okay. So increased pain tolerance, which is really good. So if you have a patient, if you have a family member, if you have a child, if anybody that's going to go through a medical procedure that might be difficult, my niece was going to have a cardiac procedure that she was very apprehensive about. She had to be awake. She couldn't have, anesthesia. And so I said to her, there's these great meditation apps, put one on your phone, listen to music, do something like that. And she did it before they wheeled her into the operating room. And she said, wow, it really helped. And the nurses were all so surprised at how good my blood pressure was and how good my heart rate was. And even though she was super, super apprehensive about having this procedure. So great thing to do in medical situations, or if you get injured and you're freaking out because you think you've broken your leg, try a little music or meditation or something like that. Decreased anxiety and depression, but what I found really meaningful in our crazy, complicated world is increased caring and empathy. So if we can increase caring and empathy among people, we solve a lot of problems in our society. If people will actually recognize each other as human beings and care about what happens to the other person, we're going to solve 90% of the world's problems right away.
And on a personal level, that's part of the sociality part that's going to give you the benefit that we talked about.
Exactly. So in one of these studies, they actually looked at Buddhist monks that had spent their lifetime studying and practicing meditation, and they could see that the parts of their brain that lit up the most were the parts of the brain that dealt with compassion and empathy. So they talk about improving your memory, getting better at what I call executive function, goal setting and following through on things, and being self-aware. So kind of cool. Okay, now this is kind of complicated, but I think interesting. This is a link to an article that they talked about in the Scientific Power Meditation video. So they talked about how mindfulness meditation training affected different parts of the brain. And one of the measures they looked at is gray matter density. So as you grow from being a child to an adolescent to an adult, your brain volume can sometimes even decrease, but your density of your brain increases. And it's kind of an indication, it's kind of like your muscles getting bigger. Your brain is getting more activated and stronger when your gray matter density, which is where all of your
the connections are.
the connections
So
in the brain
the
are.
dendrites. So
Yeah.
that as the dendrites grow, there's more connections being formed because of the meditation, and so it gets denser.
Yeah. So hippocampus, you want, because hippocampus is very important in learning and memory, you want your hippocampus to be healthy and strong and have dense gray matter. So they show the controls versus the people that engaged in this mindfulness meditation practice, and their hippocampus gray matter got denser.
And not only learning and memory, remember a big part of the learning memory is also the feedback. So remember from stress, the stress hormones would activate the learned hippocampus, and hippocampus would feedback and shut off the stress response, shut off the amygdala, right?
So then they looked at perceived stress. So they gave people stress surveys to say, how much stress do you think you're having right now? So if they gave it to you right before finals or right before some difficult event, you would have a high level of perceived stress. And then they trained them in this mindfulness meditation technique, and they gave them the perceived stress thing again, and they looked at their amygdala, so the fear center of your brain, your lizard brain, and they noticed, and this is a little complicated, the lower your perceived stress levels were, the less dense your amygdala was. See, that's how complicated it is.
Remember we had that kind of inverse relationship, bigger hippocampus, bigger prefrontal cortex, smaller amygdala. These are generalizations.
Yeah.
That was better. People that are stressed all the time, their hippocampus and prefrontal cortex shrink, but the amygdala grows and it becomes a downward spiral.
Yeah. So then as you look at higher stress scores on the right side, the amygdala density also increases. And we don't want our amygdala to be big, and we don't want our amygdala to be dense and have a lot of dense gray matter, because that means that amygdala is going to be able to overpower the rest of your brain and your prefrontal cortex and your logical brain, and it's going to be able to affect how you react to everyday stressful situations. So you might over-respond to something that's a little bit stressful.
And I was pointing this earlier when she was talking about the hippocampus and density. That was not correct. This is a chart about the amygdala, but I was giving you this concept of growing gray matter, but differentiate those two.
Okay. All righty. Wait, did we do the last one?
This one.
Yes. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So this was another study that they looked at meditation, antibody response to a flu vaccine, and of course now we would care is are you getting a good response to a COVID vaccine? And when people were practicing meditation, they saw decreased inflammation, decreased NF-kappa B, decreased CRP levels, which is a really good measure of inflammation, and increased telomerase activity. Right.
And again, that's protecting your chromosomes,
protecting the tips of your chromosomes, and better T cell activity and better response to your flu vaccine. So we want next time, remember, do a little meditation, listen to some music in the car, go take a walk, do all these things to reduce your stress and improve your immune function when you go get a vaccine next time. So, okay.
And here's your telomerase.
There you go.
Putting on the telomeres. Okay.
So, and this was a really interesting study for me that they referenced in the video. So they looked at health issues in African Americans, and they said, hey, we want to study a couple different interventions and see how they work. We're going to look at their telomeres, and we're going to look at telomerase gene expression. And we're going to look at two different interventions. One is meditation, transcendental meditation, and the other one is what they called an extensive health education class. And so they had two groups, and then they measured in this graph, the green side is the meditation group, pre-test and post-test. So they measured their telomerase gene expression before they gave them the intervention, then afterwards, gene expression went up. Then they did the extensive health education, pre-test, post-test, same result. So you're probably saying, well, why do we care? They got the same result. What we care about is what is most effective in real life. So when they studied extensive, they were giving these people like 18, 24 hours of health education over maybe 16 weeks. So it's a pretty big time commitment. But what they found is that later on, after the health education, people weren't really adopting the things that they'd been taught about in the health education. But what they found was that the people who were taught how to meditate were doing it, and that they continued to do it throughout the study and after the study. So if you can give people a simple tool that will improve their health, that will slow down aging, that will improve their response to stress, that will improve their brain function, that might decrease levels of high blood pressure, dementia, diabetes, inflammation, all of these things. If you can give people a simple tool and it can be rolled out online, it doesn't have to be in person. It can be rolled out individually. We can teach our kids in school so that when they're in fourth grade, they know how to do this. So they know how to do it when they're in high school, and they know how to do it in college, and they know how to do it as adults. Then it's I think a pretty useful intervention for stress reduction and avoiding some of the health issues that come with stress.
Right, and again, the readout was this enzyme telomerase, and we're looking over here. If you have a more active telomerase, and you see the shaded area, you're going to have reinstate this cap, this beautiful brown cap that protects the chromosomes from mutations and things like that. Okay. All right. So I guess.
All right. I think that's it. That's the last slide for this week.
All right. So
let us know if you have any questions.
Right. Absolutely.
Right. Oh, right on.
Here's our little boys. Okay. Take care. Bye.